I want to give a warning. This episode contains discussions of depression and suicide. I feel that as a creator, it's inevitable that you're going to receive negative comments. How do you personally deal with that?
I know there are creators who thrive with that kind of stuff. We know some people, as a matter of fact, who, at least on the outside, are used to it and can, handle it just fine. In fact, they're able to take that negativity and even turn it into content, right? We also know some creators who they don't really care. They don't know they get the hate because they're not really focusing on that kind of feedback. They're focusing on creating, they're focusing on the next project, or they block and they move on. It doesn't really affect them one way or the other. For me, I try to read as many comments as I can, but I don't think I have as thick of a skin as some of my colleagues, right? It's always the one negative comment out of 100 that sticks with you. I think that's just human nature. And I don't mean it makes me sad or anything like that. It's just, I don't understand why someone would take the time to even comment something negative that's not constructive or something. There are different types of negative comments. The ones that bother me the most are the ones who assume I have some kind of malicious intent, right? If I talk about this and not that, it's because I have some kind of agenda. We've even joked recently in some of our conversations, just because I talk about pancakes doesn't mean I hate waffles, right? But on the internet, you don't get that benefit of the doubt. Here, when we're friends, we have longer conversations, we can explain ourselves, we can understand each other more. But when it's just anonymous, when it's someone on a screen, you don't really give them that leeway, right?
So what I'm hearing is you hate waffles?
I hate waffles. No, I love waffles, right? Sometimes I just want some pancakes.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the ones that bother me because I understand they don't know me, but to just automatically attack my integrity, that's what stays with me. Because I know that I care, right? I know how much I care when I put out something. Let's say I pronounce something wrong. I actually go as far as consider to take it down because I don't want other people watching to take in the wrong thing and get something wrong because of me, even as something as small as pronouncing something wrong. The other ones that bother me is just stupidity. Okay.
Right.
So these bother me because I cannot believe that these people exist. And I'll give you an example. There was content I put out talking about some current events. And, when you're talking about current events, timing is very important. So I try to put things out in a very timely manner. And I got this one comment that said, man, this is a week late. You're so late to this topic. And when I saw that comment, I was like, whoa. I was like, man, I tried, right? I tried, but you have to understand, you got to do the research, you got to do the editing. So I can only put it out so fast. But then I looked at the video that they commented on, and it was 9 days ago. So they were saying I was a week late. I uploaded the video 9 days before this comment. They were late to the video, and I was early to the news if we're talking on their timeline. Right? So that also stays with me because I just don't understand. You can look at the date of when the video was uploaded. The video is not uploaded when the day you watch it, right? I can go on about this for another 10 minutes, but
Yeah, that guy was late to your video.
that guy was late to the video and I put it out earlier than they wanted, right? So yeah.
Are there any other cases or comments that were memorable for you or interesting?
I mean, there are a lot of little ones. Sometimes it's, why didn't you talk about this? Or you never talk about blank. And I literally did the video before or like the video that earlier the week, right? So it's, you can't get on to me if you didn't do your homework. You assumed I didn't talk about it just because I didn't talk about it in this one video. Or so if you remember last year, Idol's Oogie had her solo debut. We talked about it in a previous episode when we were talking about our favorite songs of 2024. And in some of my content, I was referencing her solo debut. There was one comment that was confused and said, is this her solo debut? Because she's had this solo song come out before. She's had this single come out before. That comment was genuinely asking. They were genuinely curious and confused. What's a solo debut versus just a single coming out, blah, 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 right? But it was someone responding to that comment that really got to me because their response was basically, no, this is not her solo debut. Those other ones were her solo debut. This is just whatever. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They went another extra step, right? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So number one is they said this is not her solo debut. And number two, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This is one of those I responded to. It got me that much. I have to respond to this one because I know for a fact at that moment, if you looked at her members' Instagram stories, they were congratulating Ugi on her solo debut. So I commented, I said, you can literally go check Miyeon and Soyeon's Instagram right now. They say the exact words, solo debut. Congrats on your solo debut. So if I don't know what I'm talking about, you have to go on their Instagram and tell them they don't know what they're talking about either. That's the kind of stuff that gets me.
And when you see those kind of comments, how do you feel? How does that affect you?
Obviously, it bothers me. But at the same time, I try not to hold on to it for too long. They don't know me. It's not a personal thing. It's hard to not take it personally, but I try to put that in perspective. And also, there are many, many more positive comments, right? So I try to take those in as well because I do understand that our minds will stick to the negative ones a lot easier than the positive ones. So that's what I try to do at least.
Well, you've had a few negative comments, some more memorable than others, but could you imagine what it might be like as maybe one of your favorite actors or actresses or idols, singers who are getting bombarded with negative comments, probably much more threatening or serious than the type of comments that you have gotten? I mean, I think it's one of those things where it just piles on, right? Like it's not just a few people here or there, but it's thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people commenting on your social media, creating campaigns. Like you said, some people internalize these comments differently in different ways, and some take it to heart more than others. Can you imagine what that might feel like?
Absolutely not. Like I said, I try not to take it personally, but it's a little easier for me. First of all, relatively, I'm a nobody, right? So I'm not getting attacked by masses. Just like the examples I told you, it's this one comment, it's this one person, it's just maybe it's got a couple likes on it, whatever like that, but it's not hundreds. It's never hundreds.
Imagine thousands.
Imagine thousands, right?
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, right. In the nature of my content, I can be a little more anonymous. Not many people who watch know about any of my personal information. When it's public figures like celebrities and things like that, whether they know or not, they think they know. So they are attacking you personally. They're attacking your family. They're trying to bring your career down. And I cannot imagine what that feels like on that scale.
Yeah. I mean, different people deal with that negativity in different ways. And unfortunately, it does lead some people down even more negative avenues. With the recent news of the tragic passing of legendary Korean R&B singer Wheesung, we'll commemorate the career of the artist also known as Realslow, but also discuss the effects that negative comments have on the mental health of our favorite artists. Welcome to Diaries of an MZ Generation, where we discuss Korean culture, music, and entertainment. This is episode 10. I'm Ellis Tan, and today is Friday, March 14th, 2025. Joining me as always is my friend and co-host, Justin Lee. How's it going, Justin?
It's going great. First, let me ask you, is this week 4 of Korea?
It is week 4. We've been here pretty much a month.
We've been here for a month. The reason I ask is because it feels like we've been here for a year. I say that in a good way. We've experienced so much in these last 4 weeks. And you think it starts winding down, you know, we run out of things to do or whatever. But even just last night, I experienced my first ever music show.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a music show. It was a pre-recording for next week's episode. Yeah. And it was before the song had even come out.
It's insane, as a K-pop fan, to experience a music show finally in person. I still haven't grasped what the experience really was. I'm just going over it in my head and trying to make sure I remember how special this was. But yeah, that being said, it's been crazy. But at the same time, while my mind is as strong as ever, is as excited as ever, my body, I think, is physically, it's taken a toll on my body now. Things are catching up with me now. That's why I probably sound weird in this episode.
Yeah, I'm personally experiencing with my own eyes the the collapse of
Yeah.
Justin's body here.
Yeah, like like I'm excited, I'm ready to do everything, but my body is like deteriorating at the same time. So I'm trying to get a little bit more sleep, trying to get in the vitamins and all that stuff. But
Yeah, like we're just doing so much, not getting probably the recommended amount of sleep that we should be getting.
no,
The air quality in Korea is well known to be not that great.
I feel like that's a big factor. When I hear about the air quality, and then you step outside, it's not a big deal. I think it'll start catching up with you, and you'll understand why that is important. But yeah, everything we talked about experience a lot. We'll get to that later, I'm sure. But how are you holding up?
I'm doing great.
Oh, great.
I'm perfectly fine.
Awesome.
But like you said, it's been 4 weeks, and I thought that after the first 2 weeks, we'd be kind of slowing down,
Yeah.
maybe on things to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's just picked up.
I don't know how, but man, I'm also happy to hear when we're doing something. I'm happy to see when you get excited or you get happy. You're like, oh, I've never done this or I've never been here. So then I'm like, oh, okay, so we're all like experiencing new things here as well. And you're just not being a tour guide or something.
Right. Well, we actually had another topic that we were going to discuss today. But after the shocking news of Wheesung's passing, we decided to shift gears a little bit and have a conversation about this heavy topic. I've wanted to talk about the negative comments and toxicity in K-pop and the Korean music industry for quite a while. It's been on my topic list, but since it's a very heavy issue, I've been really hesitant to even discuss it, right? But I do think that it needs to be discussed. Before we get into it, though, I do want to talk about Wheesung, the person. Wheesung, popularly known just as Wheesung, aka Realslow, is a legendary Korean R&B singer who debuted in 1999 as part of the group A4. After leaving the group due to, quote, musical differences, he would go on to release his first solo album called Like a Movie in 2002 under the M-Boat label, a former sister company of YG Entertainment that would eventually become absorbed by YG itself. The following year, he would release his second album titled It's Real and become the best-selling artist in Korea of 2003. Justin, how familiar are you with Wheesung? Do you have any memories of Wheesung while you were growing up?
I mean, if you've been in the K-pop world for some time, Wheesung is probably a name you've heard a bunch of times. For me, I'm super familiar with him as a figure in the industry. However, I wouldn't be able to say that I can just pull out a list of Wheesung songs that I'm always listening to and things like that. Although I do know for sure that I've heard his voice many, many times, whether it's his own music or OSTs in Korean dramas. Are you more familiar with Wheesung?
Yeah, of course. I pretty much grew up with him,
Yeah.
right? As a first-gen K-pop fan.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the top artists of the time. Music was everywhere. He was on variety shows.
Yeah.
And he has a really unique voice that was imitated a lot.
Yeah.
So people would, imitate him, and it was kind of like comedy sketches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he was the best-selling artist at one point. So pretty much everybody around that time knew who he was. He also worked with a lot of artists that I was a fan of, like Gina or Che Gina,
Of course.
who was formerly in JYP Entertainment, or I guess their subsidiary Cube at the time. M-Flow, I mentioned M-Flow in the SM Girl Group episode. He's also worked with them. And he has such a unique voice and a talented individual that I think just a lot of people had a lot of respect for him, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any songs that you know of Wheesung that you like and you might recommend?
Yeah, so again, I can't pull out like a list of 5-6 songs, but there are two that I would want to highlight. First is Night and Day. I think that's a really good song. Maybe a classic. I'm sure he has a lot of classics, which is why I hesitate to just define it as one.
Already, I'm surprised that we don't have an overlap.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised.
Okay.
What's your next one?
The next one is a little bit more, relatively more modern when it comes to Wheesung, I think. Hold Over, featuring Ellie of EXID. And this song really stood out to me because I think it's quite different than the Wheesung we are used to hearing. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more modern for its time. And I think it was really cool for him to kind of collaborate with Ellie and make the sound that they did together. You said you're a lot more familiar with him. You grew up with him. And we didn't have any overlaps, right? Still? What are the songs you're recommending?
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised we didn't have any overlaps, but it's probably just because of our experience listening to him.
Yeah, I think so.
As K-pop fans coming from different generations. For me, I'm just going to go with what I think personally might be his top 3 songs.
Okay.
I didn't do the research to check the numbers or anything.
Yeah.
But one of his most famous songs is a song called 안 되나요. And that is the song I had mentioned a little bit earlier where a lot of people were imitating him. That's the song, that's kind of the go-to song where they will imitate either his voice or the music video. It's such a classic song that it's transcended just the song itself.
Okay.
The next song I want to recommend is personally one of my favorite songs. It's kind of like when I heard this song, I just fell in love. So it's a song called Cry, Cry, Cry.
Okay.
Like I'm a lyrics guy, so I really like the lyrics to this song.
Of course.
And the last song that I want to recommend is an interesting one. Do you know Craig David's Insomnia?
I think so.
Yeah, was a really huge pop song by the British singer Craig David. I don't really know what happened or like what led into it. I just remember at the time it was kind of big news because I think it was around 2008 that Craig David's song Insomnia blew up.
Yeah.
For some reason, he went to Wheesung and asked him to sing the Korean version of that song.
Really?
And yeah, both songs, the Craig David version, the Wheesung version, amazing songs. Love both of them. But yeah, Wheesung's Insomnia, highly recommend that one. That could be one of his most popular songs, I think.
Really? Okay.
Did you know about Insomnia?
I probably didn't know about the Wheesung version. Yeah. I don't think I knew about that one.
Okay, cool.
So add it to the playlist of recommended songs that we got to listen to that we're definitely building.
Yeah. Learning something new with each podcast episode. I will say that I'm a little surprised that you don't know more about Wheesung considering you're such a big YG fan.
Yeah, I don't know why that's like a blind spot in the things I've listened to and not listened to. But yeah, I should have known more about it.
Well, I think kind of around the time that you started really getting into K-pop, maybe I think he might have already had left YG. Maybe when he was in the military or something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, around 2010, maybe 2011, 2012, 2013, it became known that Wheesung was dabbling in some legal drug use. And we started off today's episode kind of discussing different people will deal with negativity in different ways. And obviously, of course, some people may turn to pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I personally haven't had that experience, but from what I can tell, it helps you escape or helps you get your mind off things, makes you feel better, gives you a certain high, and eventually you get used to that feeling.
That's what you hear all the time, right? They take these drugs to escape, basically, and you're trying to hit this high every time. It makes you feel good, but eventually you're going to plateau. And now it feels normal. So you start taking more and more to chase that previous feeling, but you're probably never going to at the rate that you're going. So it becomes this dangerous cycle that has a dangerous ending.
Right, exactly. And I believe he was found to have overdosed and passed out a few times over the course of 10, 15 years. And Wheesung has been pretty open about his struggles with anxiety, depression, substance abuse. But every time he was in the news because of these, it became exacerbated by public scrutiny and then the legal issues that came along with it. It's kind of like a snowball effect, right? Where he's getting these negative comments, so he has to try to cope. And then he's doing illegal drugs, so then it gets in the news. And then there's legal issues. And then people slam him more on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So I can definitely see why someone would turn to this if that was the thing that helped them get through it.
It's unfortunate because, like you said, he was open about it, especially for his time when I don't think anybody was open about that stuff, right? And instead of hearing him and maybe people reaching out to send him support, send him some love, send him some help, people kind of made the problem worse, like you said, with the backlash, with the negative comments, with the criticism, which understandably throws someone back into that cycle. So it sucks.
Yeah. Well, at the time of this recording, we still do not have a confirmed cause of his passing. There has been some investigations. It's suggested that maybe it was overdose related. But regardless, I did want to discuss the mental health issue in the Korean music industry and how these negative comments and campaigns impact the lives of the celebrities that we idolize. With the rise of social media comes a lot of various positives and negatives. What are some of the pros and cons to having these types of connections with the celebrities that we follow?
One of the pros is that it's just fun, right? It's cool when you see celebrities updating you on what they're doing. You know, you're used to seeing them on stage or on a screen, bigger than life, larger than life. So it's kind of nice when you see them just walking their dog or seeing what they're eating for breakfast, see them get up, see what they're doing, what they're thinking, how they're enjoying a break, maybe some behind the scenes on the next project they're working on. And I think it's especially a rush when they kind of interact with you, whether it's directly, they're responding to your comment, or maybe they're live streaming and you know that you and them are just kind of, you guys are doing the same thing, hanging out essentially. But the negative is that some people take this way too far. Now we have the term parasocial relationships. These people think they know the celebrities on a personal level, but they don't. So they get too comfortable, maybe following people to private places. Some take it as far as saying things directly to a celebrity that you shouldn't say. We've seen fans go to fan signs and things, thinking they know the celebrities on a certain level, so they think they can just say whatever they want to them or do whatever they want with them. But
yeah, they'll like disrespect them right to their face.
Yeah, thinking that
they're friends.
Oh, we're friends. This is what friends do, right? But no, you don't know them. So sometimes they say things you shouldn't even say to people you are close with.
Exactly.
But they don't see it that way. To them, it's a deep connection that nobody else understands, right? Only I and this celebrity, this figure, we understand the relationship. Nobody else understands. That's why, whatever. But yeah, I think that's one of the main pros and cons when it comes to connections with celebrities.
Why then do you think that there are people that feel so compelled to leave these negative and often hateful types of comments?
What's that saying? Hurt people, right? I do think one reason is that people feel an emptiness in their lives in some way. They could be jealous of the people they're attacking, maybe feeling, why does this person deserve all of this and not me? It's just a way to bring people down with you, knowingly or unknowingly. They may not think that's the reason they're doing it, but maybe subconsciously that is.
That's a good one. I've never heard that one, but that makes a lot of sense. Hurt people, hurt people.
Oh, you never heard that?
No.
Yeah, hurt people, hurt people. Are you familiar with the name Sojang?
Of course.
Yeah, the infamous YouTube channel that kind of admitted to making up rumors about celebrities. So another reason for them, just money. You know what I mean? They take this. They don't care about the celebrities, whatever they're talking about. These celebrities, they got all the money. They have all the fame. I'm going to use that to make money. Who cares, right? So fortunately, they're now getting sued like crazy from huge names like BTS's V, Jungkook, IVE's Wonyoung, Kang Daniel. Hopefully this kind of sets an example for others who are thinking about doing this. But yeah, I feel it could be a lot of things. They're just missing something in their lives. They're jealous. They're not in a good place in their lives, and they don't think other people who seem happy deserve that kind of happiness. And sometimes it's just something as simple as money.
Yeah, the way that the internet has made people so connected and accessible really exacerbates this issue. And not just that, a big factor, of course, is the anonymity of the internet, right? Like a lot of people, they're not going to say that to somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
I would say the majority of people making these hateful comments would never say that to somebody's face and would never have the cojones, as they say.
Absolutely not.
To tell that to somebody's face, right?
Yeah.
Especially somebody who has a lot more power than them.
Yeah. They would not have the audacity.
But that still leaves us with this problem of masses of people really just piling on onto the biggest trend, the biggest news headline at the time, and what they see is what they repeat. Like right now, there's the big issue with Kim Soo-hyun.
Right.
And we have one source at the moment putting in all this evidence, putting in all this propaganda, and putting in all this rhetoric. And yeah, it kind of looks really bad for Kim Soo-hyun right now. The evidence that they're putting out there, all signs point towards yes.
Yeah.
Right? And it doesn't help that Kim Soo-hyun's agency has been lying about certain things. But we don't know both sides of the story yet, still. And I rarely believe that it's all just one way or another. There's always two sides to the coin. There's always two sides to the story. And is Kim Soo-hyun in the wrong? Right now, I'm leaning towards probably. But I also think that there's some reason that things turned out the way that they did, regardless of whether it's right or wrong. That could make it a little bit more understandable. But I believe now, with all these articles coming out like every half an hour, what seems like, people are just keep piling on onto Kim Soo-hyun now. Just a few years ago, when the victim in question, Kim Se-ron, had her issue with the DUI, it was the same situation.
Yeah.
People kept piling onto her.
Yeah.
And now the tables have turned. How the turns have tabled, so to say.
How the turntables.
Yeah, like now everybody is saying, oh, poor Kim Se-ron.
Yeah.
How could we have known she was the victim this entire time, right? And what are we going to find out 5 years from now about Kim Soo-hyun?
Yeah.
So personally for me, I don't really understand what compels people to leave such negative and hateful comments.
One of the main problems I see is people are so quick to jump on one side or the other. And I think, especially on Twitter, the retweet button, like you said,
It's X now. It's called X now.
I know, but how do you say retweet?
Re-X.
Re-X. That just makes it so easy to, like you said, exacerbate the problem, just cause a huge avalanche. I'll just give an example, which is like my little microcosm of experience. Let's say someone took something the wrong way from my video, right? Just like one line I said. They'll clip it out, they'll put it on Twitter, and they'll say, he's saying this. When if you just watched a longer portion of the video, you'll understand that that's not it at all. But people won't go to the original video to get the context. They'll watch the clip, or they'll just take the tweet. They'll just believe the tweet, and then they'll retweet it. They'll retweet it, re-exit, whatever we want to call it, right? And that just creates this huge misunderstanding. And I don't understand why people don't just, let's sit back. This is happening. These pictures are coming out of Kim Soo-hyun, right? It looks very bad, like we said, but let's take a step back. What do we have invested in this? Like, what are you gaining from just jumping on one side or the other on any situation? Let's just sit back. You can have your own personal thoughts as things come out, but to be so strong in your conviction right off the bat, I will never understand that.
Yeah, going back to the pros and cons of social media, one of the biggest cons is that social media is now essentially an echo chamber with the, like you said, the re-exing, the resharing.
Yep.
People will take things out of context, clip it, post it, it'll get shared. People don't do the research. People don't care to do the research. And regardless of what it is, Reddit, X, Instagram, the algorithm is going to feed you what it thinks, what you like.
Yeah.
And it does a pretty good job of doing that. So people will have their beliefs and they'll see other people also believing it. And for them, if other people are believing it, I believe it, it's right.
It must be right.
It must be right.
Yeah.
But this will have a snowballing negative effect. And in the Korean entertainment industry, there's such a high standard for perfection.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to live up to the ideals that people place on these public figures. And it's not just the Korean entertainment industry, but, obviously that's what we're talking about. And I feel like it is really even higher pressure over here, but it does make them very susceptible to being affected by these bullies. That's what they are. They're bullies.
Yeah.
And cyberbullying takes various forms, such as spamming the artist's personal socials with hate comments. I think that's kind of just like the lowest form.
Yeah.
But then they'll go on to send DMs like death threats and, photos. Maybe sometimes they'll even send mail
Yeah.
or packages or, something scary. They're stalking, things of that nature. I guess that's a little bit less cyber, more bully.
Just bully.
Yeah, just real life bully. But sometimes they even go on to create hate campaigns and hashtags, and they'll organize groups on like forums.
Boycotts.
They'll do these boycotts, and they'll organize swaths of people to consistently hate on one particular person.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine what that must feel like mentally to have, again, hundreds of thousands of people bearing down on you, making things up. More people are believing it. It's gaining more traction. It's totally false.
Yeah.
But people are believing it, and more people are believing it, right? For example, in some cases like Tableau, they've even taken legal action to try to defame Tableau and his education.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
It's pretty well known. He's even done like a podcast on it.
Yep.
And we also discussed Kim Se-ron just a few minutes ago, who also was getting piled on by these negative comments, ended up unfortunately taking her life last month. And leading into that now, we have the Kim Soo-hyun thing. But we've also had cases in the past, just a few years ago, with like FX's Sully. We've had Chinese Jonghyun. We've had Kara's Kara. Those are some of the big names in the Korean music industry. But we've had numerous Korean actors and actresses as well who have been affected by these negative and hateful, toxic comments and campaigns against them. Even now, we're having the current cases where people are cyberbullying BTS's Suga from his DUI incident, and New Jeans with their current debacle with Hybe and Adore.
Yeah.
Justin, how do you think hateful comments shape the way that public figures interact with their fans and the public?
Earlier, we talked about how Wheesung was open about his mental problems, his anxiety, things like that. But it didn't really help him when it came to the public. People just kind of criticized him more for how he wanted to cope and things like that, rather than try to help him out. So how do I think the hateful comments affect the way these figures interact with their fans? I think they just become way more cautious. They become way less comfortable, and in turn, way more closed off than they normally would be. They just don't want to say the wrong things or take it out of context. It becomes less fun for everyone else. And you know what's messed up about that, Ellis, is because they are more cautious, they are more selective about what they say or when they interact with fans, they will probably get backlash for not interacting with fans as much as they would or should, or however you want to phrase that. But that's what I think is crazy.
Yeah, it's almost like a recursive, self-fulfilling prophecy. You go one way, negative comments. You go another way, negative comments.
Yeah, it's a lose-lose situation no matter what.
Really, the only way is to stop leaving negative comments.
If only everyone had the same mindset. I will never understand.
Let's just find the next GD.
Let's just find the next GD.
Let's just find the next Soyeon. Let's just stop leaving negative comments.
It's that simple.
It's that simple. Different people, again, going to handle it in different ways. And if we didn't leave those negative comments, we wouldn't even need to consider, this person is going to come out stronger from it. Or this person, maybe they'll take a dangerous turn in their lives. And while I do think that, listeners of this podcast probably aren't the type to leave negative comments, it's still important to bring awareness to the situation and, be more thoughtful before you hit that post button or submit button.
Yep.
Talking about the impact of toxicity and cyberbullying is never really easy, but I believe that it's important. It's extremely important. These issues affect real people, just like Justin, just like me, just like you, dear listener. Raising awareness is an important first step towards change. Now, let's shift our focus a little bit to something that's a little more lighthearted. Let's get into 10 years ago today. Ten years ago today, on March 12th of 2015, Gain, or Son Gain of Brown Eyed Girls, the second generation K-pop girl group, she released her EP Hawwah with the title track Paradise Lost and the song Apple. So I said in a previous episode that I wouldn't normally add headlines about random comebacks to the 10 years ago today segment unless there was something interesting. So for this one, Gayin's Hawwah is one of the last releases that she's had in her solo career so far. And I do remember at the time, there was a lot of news about this comeback because it was pretty racy, honestly.
Yeah.
So you and I, we checked out these songs again this week. Do you remember this comeback when it came out?
For some reason, I have no recollection of this song or her performance or anything. I don't have any memory watching this or listening to this. Like you said, we watched it together and I thought it was just okay. I thought it was okay. If I did watch it back then, that's probably the reason I don't remember it now. Probably just didn't stand out at the time. This is 2015, so we are into the third generation. I felt like this felt a little second gen, maybe. But that would make sense. Brown Eyed Girls were a second gen group. But you were right, it is quite racy. It starts off quite racy, especially for the time. And that was very interesting. What did you think about it?
So when we rewatched these videos this week in preparation for this show, I did not really remember ever watching the music videos.
Yeah.
But I did remember the thought of me watching the performances.
Okay.
The thing that stood out to me the most was I do remember the controversy about the song Apple
Yeah.
when it first came out. But besides that, I don't really remember it too well.
Yeah.
I did like the songs. She has better songs in my opinion, but I didn't really realize that this would end up being one of her last few singles.
Yeah, same.
When I saw this headline, I was thinking, oh, it's just another one of her
Yeah.
solo songs. But looking at her discography, I realized, oh, wow, this was actually one of the last things that she released. And watching the music video and watching the performances, I was also thinking like, pretty much her entire career has been like this.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Right? Do you have any other memories from Gayin's solo career?
Not in particular. I don't know. I feel like it's been so long since I've listened to Gayin's solo projects that I would have to refresh my memory. I would have to go back through, listen. It's like, oh, I remember this one. I like this one, blah, blah, blah. Right now, I can't just pull it out. But hey, I was a big fan of Brown Eyed Girls, big fan of Gayin when I was coming up in the K-pop world. So yeah.
I do recommend checking out that song, Apple.
Apple, yeah.
It does feature J Park. Another couple of songs that I would recommend, probably her top song, her top work, is a song called Bloom.
Yes.
It gets covered a lot. It's one of my favorite K-pop songs of second gen, and it would probably make my top 100 of all K-pop songs.
Really?
If I had to make a top 100 of all K-pop songs,
Yeah.
I think Bloom would be up there.
Okay.
It's along the lines of like Sunmi's 24 Hours
Okay.
in the sense of like how classic that song is. But another song that I really liked was a duet with 2AM's Jokwon.
Yes.
The two of them were on a show called We Got Married.
I loved it.
We've discussed this variety show before with Nikun and Victoria.
Yes.
But Jokwon and Gayin were also a couple on that show. And they were such a popular couple.
I loved them.
They ended up coming out with a song, a single song called We Fell in Love.
Mm-hmm.
And that song was a smash hit. Number one on all the charts.
Yeah.
Amazing song. Highly recommend that song. Nothing like the rest of her solo career, but still a really fun and great song. So 10 years ago today, Gayin of Brown Eyed Girls would release her solo EP, Hawwah, with the title track Paradise Lost and the song Apple, which would actually go on to become the bigger song. That was on March 12th of 2015. 10 years ago today, on March 16th of 2015, the boy group B.A.P would have their court trial against TS Entertainment. What do you know about this situation? Because this is a big one. TS Entertainment, B.A.P, this head-to-head really impacted a lot in the industry.
So it was around this time that B.A.P were having trouble with their schedules, partly because of health problems. There were other issues going on. And then we find out that B.A.P files a lawsuit against TS Entertainment to terminate their contracts, citing unfair treatment. The members had signed their contracts back in March of 2011, and they were now saying that the contract was just way too one-sided, and it was way more advantageous for the company than it was for them. basically a slave contract. To give an example of one of the things they referenced was the contract didn't start the day they signed it. It started the day they released their first album. So it just kind of extends it beyond 7 years, which was one of the main things when they were ruling out slave contracts, right? Was the length of it. The members also stated things you would expect, like the profit was way too partial to the company. The terms of termination, so the reasonings of how or why they could get out, basically made it impossible for them, which is why they had to basically end up suing the company to either change or get out of their contracts. However, later this year, B.A.P and TS, they would reach a settlement. B.A.P stays in TS Entertainment, and they would go on with the company for a few more years. However, I do believe this really derailed the momentum they had built up in the last 4 years since they were there. And it really affected their careers, and it really affected their position in the industry because they had risen up really high despite not coming from a big 3 company at the time.
Despite the mismanagement of TS Entertainment.
Despite the horrible mismanagement from TS Entertainment, they were somehow still able to get to the level they got. And this was kind of the first big derailment they had that would probably knock them off course.
At one point, I would say they were one of the top boy groups in the industry.
Yeah.
And TS Entertainment at the time were thriving. They had Secret. They kicked off a really great career. They had B.A.P, who was having incredible success.
Yeah.
They would later go on to produce Sonamu, who had promising trainees as well. But yeah, TS Entertainment just kind of blew everything up.
It's unfortunate. They had such good pieces of the puzzle for what they were building. And for the size they were competing in this very cutthroat industry, having groups like B.A.P, Secret, a promising Sonamu, they had it all in their hands, and it just fell apart.
Yeah, it's not easy to create these highly successful groups.
Yeah.
And I think it's even harder to mess it up that bad.
I don't know how, oh man. Yeah, I don't know how with those players on your roster, right? I don't know how you fumble it like this.
It's quite possibly the worst collapse of an entertainment company in the history of K-pop.
Oh, man.
There's a few.
It's weird because we can't say they had no idea what they were doing if B.A.P, Secret were able to reach that level, right?
Right.
But I guess their mess ups were far beyond what they were getting right. But yeah, like you said, probably one of the biggest screw ups in K-pop history.
I mean, Secret was huge. B.A.P was huge. At the time, Secret's Hyeosung, the leader, and their main vocalist, Song Ji-eun,
Yeah.
were also coming out with solo songs.
Great solos.
And not only were Secret popping off, not only was B.A.P popping off, but those two solo careers were also popping off.
They were doing great. I loved them at the time. I still have them on like some of my playlists.
Me too.
Yeah, like they were so good. I just don't understand, Ellis.
Somehow, one of the biggest screw-ups in K-pop history.
And think about, this is 2015. B.A.P were one of the biggest boy groups at the time, right?
Right.
They would hit this rough patch here, which would kind of derail them. And BTS are on their way up, right? So maybe the fall of B.A.P created a spot for BTS to rise and just transcend the K-pop world as they did.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's kind of one of those what-ifs
Yeah.
situations. Because I remember B.A.P, they were winning a lot of awards.
Yes.
Or had the potential to win a lot of awards. And again, at the time, it was like BTS, EXO, B.A.P,
Yeah.
right? Which was wild.
Yeah.
SM Entertainment, Big Hit Entertainment. I guess at the time, Big Hit Entertainment wasn't what they are now. So
No.
yeah, Big Hit and TS. Imagine if TS was the one that became part of the Big Four.
I could have very well seen that. Just with the success they were seeing, like with the solos. Even the solos were really good.
Yeah. I mean, what could have been? And we'll have an episode where we get more into groups that had far more potential. So we talk about it this week, March 16th. B.A.P had their court trial against TS Entertainment. But in reality, we could be talking about this headline all year because there were so many headlines at the time. It was one of the biggest news topics for most of the year, the situation between B.A.P and TS Entertainment.
Yeah. So it's March right now where they're going to their first court hearing, right? They would not settle until August. So that's a good part of the year where you're hearing nothing but B.A.P and TS going at each other.
Yeah. I mean, for the last 3 months that we've been doing this podcast, I've been wondering, when should I insert this topic into the 10 years ago today segment? But I felt like the first court trial would have been the one.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago today, on March 16th of 2015, B.A.P would have their first court trial against TS Entertainment. The last topic for 10 years ago today was on March 16th of 2015, Girls' Day's Mina, or Bang Mina, would have her solo debut with the track called I Am a Woman Too. In Korean, it is 나도 여자예요. Do you remember this solo debut at all?
Yes. So we also listened to this together, just to get a refresher. Funnily, I don't remember the music video. I remember her debut. I was a big Girls' Day fan. Mina was one of my favorite members, actually.
Would you say that she was one of your top 4 members?
She was one of my top 4 members. I think we could safely say she was one of my top 4. Yeah, I don't remember the music video, but I do remember the performances, the outfits, that classic Girls' Day kind of suit thing. I don't know how to describe it, but
it was like a bodysuit with
a suit jacket or something. Yeah. Classic Girls' Day look, right? But yeah, song is really good. I think I enjoyed it more than the Gain song that we listened to.
This song is still on my playlist, the Night Drive playlist that I talked about in a few episodes ago.
Yeah, so I was gonna hand it over to you because I know you said you really love this song.
I really love this song.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something about the way that the song is sung, the way that the lyrics are put together, just the way that the song sounds. It's a really easy listening song. And I was a big Girls' Day fan back then, even before they blew up with that song Expectation. And yeah, it's unfortunate that I don't think she actually had come out with any other solo songs after this one, but I really enjoyed this song. So do you have anything else to add?
No.
Okay. So I do recommend that song, I Am a Woman Too, by Girls' Day's Mina, or Bang Mina. And that was her solo debut on March 16th of 2015. So 10 years ago today, Gain would release her EP, Hawwah. B.A.P would attend their first court trial against TS Entertainment, and Girls' Day's Mina would have her solo debut. Today, we did our best to honor the legendary career of Wheesung, aka Realslow, and also discussed the potential effects that toxic negative comments have on the artists' and creators' mental health. Justin, is there really anything that can be done about this?
It sucks because the bad people ruin it for everyone else. Having an anonymous account has its upsides for those who can't easily get out of their shell but want to be a part of something. You touched on it earlier. I do think we could possibly get less negativity if everyone had to use their real names, their real pictures. People seem to be bolder when there are no consequences, nothing connecting them to their actions, their words. Other than that, off the top of my head, I can't really think of a way without limiting the freedom and fun for everyone else as well. Is there a way you think we could do it?
I think it's just one of those situations where the solution is going to be something that doesn't exist yet.
Okay.
And unfortunately, this is kind of just humanity.
Yeah.
And without restrictions or methods or technology in place to correct these issues, I'm not really sure we can change humanity that easily.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And yeah, like you said, the bad apples ruin the bunch.
That's why we can't have nice things.
That's why we can't have nice things. If you or a loved one are struggling with mental health issues, there are multiple resources and helplines that you can utilize to receive assistance. It's only a quick internet search away to find these resources available to you locally. Mental health is a serious matter that in a lot of ways is still underestimated by many today. Justin, thank you again for your time. Thanks again for joining me. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. I just hope that people are more considerate and kind to the people around them, and not just people you know, but people you don't know. You never really know what people are going through on the inside, and we also have to keep in mind that these celebrities that we follow, that we admire, that some idolize, that while a lot of people put them on a pedestal, at the end of the day, they are just human too. So before you post something or make a comment, try to take a step back, calm the emotions a bit, and consider how this would make another human being feel.
Yeah, let's get out there and be kind to one another. That's all for today, Friday, March 14th, 2025. This has been Diaries of an MZ Generation, hosted by Ellis Tan and Justin Lee. This is a production of Selective Hearing and is a part of the Selective Hearing network of podcasts, edited by Ellis Tan and Greg Abesamis. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.